Hello everyone, welcome to week 9 of your BioCore training. This week we're going to be moving over into our genetics lab to start working on this unit, which is only about 2 weeks long, but it will tie directly into our biotechnology unit, which will be our final unit for the semester. So before you get started this week, I just want to give you a quick tour of all of the things that you'll be doing. So let's hop over to a short presentation where you will be able to um, see what you're doing this week. So again, week 9 is going to cover the week of October 12th through October 16th. This course, again, this training material will open on Saturday for those of you who would like to get started on it over the weekend. The topic for this week includes a type of cell division known as meiosis, as well as going over some basics of human genetics. The structure of the lab is a little bit different, not too much from what we've been doing. You will have a pre-lab and 2 virtual labs that are going to be due on Wednesday, October 14th. And as we decided last week, these assignments will be due at 11:55 p.m. You will also have a post-lab quiz that is due on Friday, October 16th at 11:55 p.m. The quiz does open on Wednesday, so you're welcome to take it anytime between Wednesday and Friday. You will notice that you do not have a lab notebook submission this week, so hopefully that makes everyone a little bit happy. So the pre-lab for this particular week is a little bit different than what you did in the previous weeks. And so since this was a little bit more involved, that is why we are not going to do a lab notebook this week. All right, so you do get a break there, but please understand that the pre-lab, it's not super intense, but it is a little bit longer than what you've been doing, just to give you guys enough background so that you're able to understand what you're doing in the virtual labs. When you look in our As You Learn course, this is what you're going to see for your week 9 overview. So you will be, here's the link to your pre-lab. There is also a link to remind you to do the virtual labs themselves and then the post-lab quiz. This week, you will also be meeting during your regularly scheduled lab times with your lab mentors. And I'll go over in the next slide some more details about what will occur during that session. One of the big things that you're going to discuss is this project. So over the next couple weeks, as you are working through genetics, you're going to be working on a very short 5 to 7 minute presentation on a specific genetic disease. And I'm going to go over a little bit of that information with you here, and your lab instructor will go over that with you as well during your Zoom session. When you guys log into Connect this week, if you go to the actual course page, this is what you will see for week 9. There is a video for you to watch. So instead of doing a chapter reading, we're going to watch a video this week that talks about heredity. So please make sure you watch this before you begin the other materials. I do have it open so that you can watch the video through the end of the week, but it's highly recommended that you finish watching this video at least once before you begin the pre-lab activities. So then you will do your pre-lab questions. So this comes up as a homework activity in Connect. So it's a little bit different than the Achieve assignments that you have been working on, but they are questions dealing with both meiosis and human genetics. Once you have completed your pre-lab, you can also work on your virtual labs. You may find it helpful to do these at the same time, so please feel free. They kind of all go together. So the virtual labs for this week are kind of walking you through how meiosis works. So that might help you understand that process. And in human genetics, you're going to be looking at things like Punnett squares and pedigree trees. So please feel free to take notes. You will be asked to analyze some pedigree trees and Punnett squares in the post-lab quiz. So make sure you take notes as you're working through all of the material this week. Your week 9 assignment schedule looks a little bit like this here on the right. So on Monday, October 12th, it is suggested that you start watching the video on heredity. It's not that long, but it'd be good to start your week off with that and to start working on the pre-lab for exercise 13. Then by Wednesday at 11:55 p.m., you need to have that pre-lab completed, as well as the 2 virtual labs. And then Friday is the final time you can submit your post-lab quiz. Now, depending on when your lab session is, you will also be selecting a genetic disease during your lab session for the one that you're going to research. So during your lab Zoom session this week, you will review some of the questions from the exercise 12 post-lab quiz. So that's from week 8. So we will go over the questions with you all again that seem to be very well recepted this past week. So we will do that. Your lab instructors will also go over meiosis and human genetics briefly with you, just to make sure everybody has a good understanding of it before the end of the week. They're also going to discuss in more detail the genetic disease project that you're going to be working on. In case you're interested in kind of looking ahead at what this project is going to entail, let's hop over to our As You Learn course site and I can give you a tour of what these resources look like. All right, so here we are in our 1801 lab course. You can see all of the materials here for your actual lab exercises. And here is the link to that assignment schedule that I just showed you. Down here, you'll see Project 1, Genetic Disease Presentation Part 1. You'll want to come back to this folder probably over the next couple of weeks as you continue to work on this project, because this folder contains a lot of resources for you. So the first thing that I would encourage you to do is to click on this genetic disease presentation project description. This is going to open up a PDF document, gives you the total number of points and the purpose, so the different skill sets and knowledge that you should gain from doing this task. Talks about what exactly you're going to be doing. So as a junior scientist here at BioCore, what we need you to do is to help us in our genetics lab. So for this assignment, you're going to act as one of our genetic consultants who will need to meet with a family or a patient who has been diagnosed with a genetic disease or has recently found out that they are carriers of a genetic disease. So in your presentation, you will need to be able to talk to them about this disease and possible treatment options. This is a time-sensitive matter, but we know that you are all very well equipped to do this, that you're full of compassion and will be able to explain these diseases to our patients. We will also provide you lots of resources to help you get started. This presentation is not very long, so like I said, 5 to 7 minutes is all it needs to be. 5 minutes is perfectly sufficient, so don't feel like this has to be a huge endeavor. So step 1 is what you're going to be doing here in week 9. So you're going to select your genetic disease. Each lab instructor will provide their class with a Google Sheet with a series of genetic diseases listed that we need to have presentations created for. You need to sign up for one of those diseases. Some of your lab instructors may allow you to work in pairs. It is completely up to your lab instructor. Some of them may require that you work on your own. So, and some may say you have the choice. So there's lots of options for that. But please note that no more than 2 people can select the same disease, no more than 2 groups if you are working in teams. So try to do different diseases so that we can all see some different research. After you have selected your disease, you're then going to start researching it. So you can use the Google Scholar, the App State Library, and other credible search engines to locate different sources. We will also provide you some things, like I said, to help you get started. So there are three main things that you need to cover in your presentation. The first is some basic science. So for a lot of these diseases, the chromosome on which the mutation is found has been identified. So if that is known, you should report that in your presentation. If you can find out, is the mutation impacting DNA replication, transcription, or translation? So some of the diseases, again, that might be known. Is a protein overexpressed or underexpressed or maybe formed incorrectly? And many other things. So you will find this information out as you're kind of researching your disease. The second thing that you want to provide is the symptoms for your genetic disorder. So we're kind of looking for who is typically affected by this genetic disorder. Does it affect a certain age range or nationality, a gender, any of these types of things? So is there a specific group of people that might be more susceptible to this genetic disease, makes them predisposed to it? That would be very interesting information to have. What are the genetics of this disease? So if the parent has it, is it something that can be inherited by their offspring? So you'll want to include that if it is a genetically inheritable disease. It would also be great if you could explain the symptoms. How is this disease expressed? What does it do? How does it impact the patient that is affected by this particular disease? Things about life expectancy, does it cause some kind of limitation? Does it make them more susceptible to something else? So a little bit of the medical background about the disease as well. And then finally, we want to look at some genetic medicine. So this is kind of a really interesting part where biology and biotech gets to come into play. So I would like you to describe in some detail a genetic medicine that either is currently being used or could possibly be used to treat this genetic disease. So again, we will give you some background on this and can share with you how to do that. Right, so those are the three main things that we would like you to present to our clients who are coming to get some more information about the genetic disease that they've been diagnosed with or carriers of. And then finally, you're just going to create that presentation. We will provide you a template, just some very basic PowerPoint slides. You're welcome to convert it into a Google slide presentation if you would like. You can change the backgrounds and the fonts and things like that to personalize it and to create your own take on it. But the general information that needs to be included is in the template. We would like you to, again, focus on the genetic disease. So again, there's a little bit more description down here. Some statistics about the disease. We kind of talked about that up here in number 2. Just like who is susceptible to this, what are their life expectancies, those types of statistics are what we're looking at. And like I said, really focus on this genetic medicine. The patients are coming to us here at BioCore to see what their options are. And so we would really like you to focus in on that. All right, there is a link here to the presentation template and the grading guide, but I would also like to show you where you can find those within our As You Learn site. So right here is the actual presentation template. So again, it will download as a PowerPoint for you. There's 7 slides. Again, you can add to it if you need to, but just keep in mind you need to keep your presentation to 5 to 7 minutes. So this one includes instructions. So I'll let you read this. It's got some pointers on how to create an effective PowerPoint for this type of presentation. And then it just kind of goes over what should be included on each slide. All right. You will need to include citations, right? So we need to make sure that we document where we get our information from. That's very important. So please list and number all of the resources you used in creating your presentation. All figures need to have their citations listed on the slide where they are shown. So right under the image that you use, make sure the link to that image is present. We are requesting that you have about 7 to 10 credible sources. This does not include your figures unless they were also from the same source where you got some of your content information from. In that regard, then of course you could, that would be considered a resource. All right, so that is your PowerPoint template. Again, you are encouraged to add backgrounds and color to make it attractive for your audience. So the next thing I want to show you here is the third file down, which is the project resources. So this is a Word document because it's got lots of hyperlinks here, seem to be working the best. So there are lots of different things here for you to start with. The first is a animation type of walkthrough that is put out by the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. This will teach you a little bit about the central dogma if you are unfamiliar with it. And it also goes through different types of genetic medicine. So as you are looking, to see what type of genetic medicine might be available for your genetic disease, this is a really great resource to get some background information. So please take a look at that. This next website gives a nice long list of different types of what a genetic disease is. There's different types of genetic disorders. So this is a really good background type of information that you can get from here. This particular website also houses some of the different genetic diseases that are that fall under maybe this single gene inheritance disorder, right? And so you can get more information about those particular diseases here. Ones that have multifactorial genetic inheritance disorders. So you can see that list here. And then again, there's the chromosomal abnormalities and the mitochondrial related genetic inheritance disorders. So many of the ones that you'll be able to select from, you'll be able to start your research from this database here. Oops, I lost my Word document. Give me 1 second. All right, this other one, number 3, is also another website that we can go to. Again, it lists a number of different genetic disorders. So again, you can find information here and then it links to more resources for you as well. So those are 2 really good starting places to get some genetic information about your disease. And then number 4 is also just another website where there are 10 different genetic disorders here. These ones tend to be more rare. So if you do select one of the rare ones, you can start here. The last 3 resources I've provided for you are to a medical dictionary and pronunciation tools. As you will be giving an oral presentation, it's also important to be able to pronounce some of these difficult terms correctly. So I do encourage you to take advantage of these tools to help you become more confident in your pronunciation of these terms. And as you're doing your research, you may come across some terms that you're not really sure what they mean. So you're welcome to use the medical dictionary to look them up as well. So please feel free to, you are encouraged to use these resources to start your research and to help you really polish your presentation. All right. And then finally, we do have the presentation grading guide. So I'll just open up the PDF version here. So you know exactly how you're going to be scored on this presentation. So there is a section, 50% of the grade is going to come from the content. So did you understand the science behind the disease you were talking about? Did you clearly talk about the inheritance pattern of your disease, its symptoms, its prognosis, those types of things? And did you clearly describe an appropriate type of genetic medicine that could possibly be used to treat this disease? The other 50% is going to come from the actual presentation. So the visual appearance, some required elements that need to be in your presentation, how well you spoke in your presentation, and also the length, right? We don't want it to be super short. We don't want it to be super long. So how well were you able to keep it within that 5 to 7 minute time frame? Each of these things is broken down into more detail, right? So you can read about that here. I'm not going to sit here and read it to you, but I do encourage you to look over this. So if you really want to get an A on this project, you know, you're going to look at this professional block and be like, you know what, I'm going to make sure I do all of these things. All right. So this is the scorecard that your lab instructor will be using to give you a grade on this assignment. For the technical and professional objectives, same thing. You have a range of professional down to we need some work. So make sure that you look through here and that you do a good job at doing this. I did say 5 minutes was fine, so 5 minutes will get you into the professional category on this assignment. And then you'll see this required design elements. I've broken those down down here. So we're looking for a nice descriptive and creative title that clearly explains what your presentation is going to be about and that you have all of the required information on that title slide. We're looking that you have at least 3 different figures somewhere in the presentation. So pictures, illustrations, graphs, tables, any of that type of stuff. You need at least 3 of them. And again, make sure you cite them on the slide. We are looking for 7 to 10 credible sources. So again, you know, you're doing the science, you're doing some of the medical parts of it, and you're also looking at the therapy, so genetic therapies. So it's a little bit of information there. So you're going to want to make sure that you have some resources that span all 3 of those different topics. And then the last one, and as long as you use the flow that's in the template, pretty much everybody usually gets number 6 here, that you have some clearly defined sections, but yet it has a very nice flow to the overall presentation. All right, so I do encourage you to keep a copy of this rubric or grading guide with you as you're putting together your presentation. You will have time in class during week 10 to work on this presentation. So, and give each other feedback. So by your class time during week 10, so next week, you should have a draft of your presentation. It doesn't need to be completed, but a draft that is far enough along that you will be able to pair up with some others in the class and kind of share what you're doing and get some feedback and pointers on how to improve it. So you'll use the rubric there and kind of score each other and give some advice to help each other do a really good job. All right, I think that pretty much covers everything for next week. So again, welcome to our genetics lab. We're very excited to be welcoming you guys to this part of your training course. We hope you enjoy learning about meiosis this week and some human genetics. A lot of our trainees really enjoy this portion of the course, and we hope you do as well. So we look forward to seeing you in class, and we hope you have a wonderful week. Bye.